Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. I am Rob Coyle. I work for the University of Maryland Global Campus. Good morning, everyone. I am welcome. I'm Rob Coyle, the Assistant Vice President for Course Development at University of Maryland Global Campus, and it is my pleasure to moderate this session today. Before I turn over this webinar to our two guest speakers, I just want to quickly cover a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, welcome to this webinar on behalf of Maryland Online and the Maryland Online Board. We are going to ask everyone to please keep your mics muted during this session. Place your questions in the chat. A couple of us will monitor the chat and help to make sure that we are able to address any questions you might have. Also, just to make everyone aware, the recording of today, and we are recording, as well as the slides will be made available probably by tomorrow. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Richard Smith and Greg Priebe from Harford Community College, and they will be leading today's eLearning Design Institute. Gentlemen.
All right, thanks, Rob. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Richard Smith. I'm an instructional designer at Harford, and my coworker, Greg Priebe, there he is. I want to tell you, we did not plan that we would both wear our Harford shirts. That was totally unplanned, but we did plan on wearing this, having the same exact chair. We've worked together way too long, so let's just say that. So wanted to do that before I jump into the presentation. So I want to go ahead and share our presentation. And I sort of did what Wendy has talked about, is sort of I narrated my actions, but that's okay. You should be seeing my screen. If for any reason you don't, let me know. Of course, you know with Zoom, sometimes when you're sharing the screen, then you can't see anything else. I'm going to be the one sharing the screen, but Greg and I will go back and forth on this a little bit. So we want to talk about that. So our presentation is about the eLearning Design Institute, and we've actually had two versions of this, a virtual as well as multiple face-to-face ones. You may have seen a variation of this presentation a few years back from an MDLA conference, and that was with a couple of our participants from the Institute. But lots of things have changed, especially since there was something happened in 2020 that changed everything around. I'm not going to mention what that is. I think we all know what it is. And there, Greg.
So a purpose of our educational design, our eLearning Design Institute, and the its eventual virtual version, which we, unfortunately, people like acronyms, so it's EDI and VEDI. Our purpose for these was to create, get faculty and staff together in a co-curricular manner, and have them work together in development of a specific course or a specific capstone project. Usually it's a course, but this current session somewhat came out a little differently. Our other purpose was to explore the design topics and pedagogical issues that are cropping up in the modern instructional experience. Because most of the time our capstone was a course, we gave the cohort the option to submit that finalized course for external awards. I know we've submitted to Blackboard and we've submitted to ITC. We placed pretty well. We haven't won yet, but they've all finished well in the running. So you might ask, why create something like this? Initially, it was like we wanted to get another course created in a design cycle that was needed by the college. This would be something with high enrollment or needed for the completion of a program. So that was a great fringe benefit of getting these people together. But another reason, we wanted to almost have like an open house experience for the e-learning department. Bring people together who had different skills, different experience, different backgrounds, different employment types, whether you're faculty or staff, adjunct faculty, full-time faculty, just get people together cross-curricularly, cross-department, who might not talk to each other and see what they all can bring to the process. And it was also, this was our first chance to teach some new pedagogical skills they may not have encountered before, particularly on the learning management system and course design, instructional design. And again, we really wanted this to be a community building experience.
So, you know, it's not like Greg and I to brag. Okay, it probably is like Greg and I to brag. But we started this a long 4 years ago. In fact, it doesn't seem like that long. And the one reason we will brag is this was not something that we were tasked to do. We just decided, Greg and I went, let's get a group of people together. And this, we didn't even have much of a name yet. We just said, let's get some people together. And eventually the EDI name came out, the eLearning Design Institute name came out. We wanted to get 7 faculty that just to sit and talk. And we gathered 7 faculty from across the college. And like I said, we were just chatting. We had no end goal at all. Now, we don't call this a full EDI group. It's just sort of our pilot group because it really didn't exist at that time. We plan to meet 6 times over a single semester. Well, that didn't really work out. We had one faculty member who dropped out due to work commitments. He had some middle states work. In fact, that faculty member is now just became a vice president at community college up in New York. So he got a little busy. Another faculty member stopped working at the college during that 6-month things. We had lots of just attendance issues. It was hard for people to get together. Trying to get 7 faculty to get together on a certain time and place, it's just impossible. But we eventually did meet all 6 times. It took us 2 semesters for that to happen. And we didn't know what we were going to get, but the project didn't work as it planned, but it was still really helpful. We knew that we had something. We knew that this meeting of minds, meeting people from cross-curriculum, it was working. It had something. So this initial group, we still call it the pilot group. I think some of these members, like I said, I think only about half of them are even still at the college now, but or I think one's just an adjunct at this point because she retired. We still view them as our trendsetters for this. It was extremely helpful. So what we did from looking at this first pilot projects, we knew that there was something to this, getting people together to talk, especially people who may see each other once a year, have no idea who they are. This is a good idea. So we needed to find a way, some kind of schedule where this would actually work. We also, as Greg mentioned, we talked about eventually we submitted it to awards and things like that. We just needed some kind of deliverable. Having lots of people meet is a great idea, but at a certain point, it's not going to work unless you have some kind of deliverable that's attached to that. So that's what we did.
So, as Rick said, this is where do we go from here? So around the time we decided to go into the official EDI, like summer and winter institutes were the big thing. So we decided there was a call for demand for that on campus. So we just decided to go with it. And we were going to do this as either a summer or a winter institute for faculty professional development. This had the benefit of faculty would still be on contract for either first week of June or first week of winter. And that was always a good time slot for PD. In fact, later on, we ran into some scheduling issues because there was so much professional development being jammed into that time slot after we started offering EDI. And since we found like the meeting over 6 sessions over an entire semester really didn't work out, we said, okay, this is time you're not actually teaching at this time. Let's actually have some set time slots over a compressed time, mostly a week or like a kind of a time shifted week or a week and a half, and actually do some structured professional development. So where do we get our recruits? We needed EDI participants. We sent out a general call to faculty, gauging interest for a summer institute. Though it was open to everybody, and we did catch a little flack for this, we did reach out to specific people we thought like, you really have potential and we really would like your input into this project. We did reach out to those people individually. But because we had so much trouble with attendance in the first one. If a person could not commit to all sessions, we had to, well, let's wait till next time where you actually can get all the sessions, because each session was themed. And if they missed it, we'd have to go back over that material. So if you couldn't commit, we didn't let you in. And the response was great. You can see, I'm not going to go through every division there. You can see our partial view of our first official session in one of the pinwheel classrooms. We had a great deal of diversity in our academic disciplines. So we had somebody from almost every division and so many different academic disciplines.
So we decided, when we got that schedule, we had the institute. So it was 4 straight days of like 4 to 5 hours per day. In that first week in June, when people were still under contract, but maybe teaching load was less. So we put it in 4 days. And if you saw, I'm going to go back actually a slide. You see this classroom we were in, and you'll see some more pictures of that. This is called a pinwheel classroom. It's got the instructor station in the middle. And then there's whiteboards around the whole room. So there's actually 4 computer projectors. The whole room is essentially a whiteboard. It's in our newer nursing building. It's just a really great facility for this kind of thing. So we met in this room, and we just had certain discussions, topics that we had set aside. Greg and I came up with topics that sort of based on like quality matters, even though we never said it was a quality matters. But everything we do is somewhat based on those kind of issues. And then we use that whiteboard to great use. We took notes on every inch of that whiteboard, and you'll see some photos later. Greg actually luckily has much better handwriting than I was, so he was tasked to write, and we wrote on every single place. We could have actually done it digitally and saved it. We ended up just taking photos of it. It was just much easier. Everyone's got a cell phone like that. There were some sessions that you'll see were more hands-on than others. And then we made sure that we had some kind of deliverable in each session as well, so that each day seemed like you were getting something done. And then I'm going to go over the first day. So we created a day called Expectations and Inclusivity. We started out with this as our first topic. And it was literally, we just talked. We discussed student expectations. We discussed what faculty have expectations of students. We discussed what kind of barriers there are in the classroom. And then we just wrote and wrote. Well, Greg wrote and wrote.
Yeah, I went all beautiful mind.
He did. You can see his handwriting is quite good. That's why he was our handwriter. If it was mine, it would not be as pretty for this, and we would not have used it in this slide. And at the end of the day, though, we took these list of expectations, barrier issues, other issues, and we came down a list of things that we want to make sure that we do or don't do in our deliverable for this whole project.
So session 2 sort of went over to me for storyboarding. In this session, we made this final decision. We talked about what potential courses we could do as the capstone for this, but this was the deadline to make the final decision on which course the cohort was going to develop. It was the anthropology introduction to physical anthropology and archaeology was chosen. We had a good face-to-face section, but we did not have an online section or content for it. And then we used learning environment modeling language developed by Bucky Dodd out of, which school is Bucky at, Rick?
Central Oklahoma, University of Central Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's he's in the eLearning over there, and they developed a learning environment modeling language that kind of creates a shared language between instructional designers and instructors, where you can have, say, okay, we need these parts. You're not going to go down into actual how you're going to do the parts, but you're going to say what parts need to exist in this lesson or unit or course even. And then we did a brief introduction on how to write in that language and model that. And then we set everybody loose on the various whiteboards. So you can see the first one, we had an instructor drawing up very nicely. And then this first one on the left is me going insane with it, just drawing it out as people are yelling it out. And then we see our other team member, Adam Phantom, working with several people on another lesson for the course on another whiteboard. So you can see it's like everybody's starting. It's hard to define what you need in a lesson. So this is a good shorthand to say all the parts you need. Do we have them? Do we need to develop them? And sketch it out so we know what we're in for.
And I will mention that Bucky was our keynote speaker for the MDLA conference this last spring, our virtual conference. And that is up on the MDLA YouTube channel. He did a really great presentation. And I would say that anyone really should reach out to, what's his new sort of project at University of Central Oklahoma? It's got a new name, I think.
He's got a specific unit that actually does external training, but the most interesting thing is you can become a certified learning environment architect through his program. CLIA it's called, and that's where you learn this LEM language and how to apply it, and they throw problem solving scenarios at you. I've gone through it myself. It is very valuable.
And like I said, reach out to Bucky if you need to, or watch his presentation. He did a great job. And real quick, before I go to the next slide, this here is a good indication. I'm gonna go back to the slide before, and you can see that's one of our nursing faculty. So remember, this is an archaeology course, but one of our nursing faculty is help designing the course. Right there, Adam Phantom on the right is one of our instructional design technologists. And then you can't see the one nursing faculty in the left, in the back, but the other rows, there's another nursing faculty. So nursing faculty are helping design our archaeology course, because we knew that it didn't matter. We wanted this group. We had this really diverse group. It was great.
And in the corner, we had an education faculty. So there's always a piece where someone has that final idea that's needed to move the process on.
So you see session 2 was very hands-on. We really, everyone got up on the whiteboard, everyone started doing things. Back to session 3, we got a little more talky again, because that was our goal. We wanted a little bit of both. We wanted sharing of ideas, sharing of experiences. We also wanted people to have some time up to do things. So session 3, we called effective assessments and assignments. And it really was just discussing the best ways to assess the students' knowledge. Generally, people just threw out examples of things they do, things they've seen, things they use on online, things they use in hybrid, things they use face-to-face. We talked about different methods of presenting contents. You know, we are Blackboard school, but we also talked about soft chalk. We contemplated Sway, even though we decided not to do that, thankfully. I'm not a big fan. PowerPoint, we just talked about different things like that. And then at the end, we had our deliverable the same way. That we came up with some specific assessments and assignments that we would use in this class. Now, of course, it is 4 days we were working. We weren't designing everything, but we were getting general ideas. So you can see this is just a list of things that we threw out. Once again, Greg's good handwriting. We just started talking about things we do in different classes. You see there's an example from CIS 102, community studies, video journals. This was just, we were coming up with every idea that this group has experienced or has seen out on the thing, or seen out on the college. Because remember, this is a group of people, some of them who had never met each other. We wanted to see how a nursing faculty would deal with things versus what an education or a computer person would do. And this is the beauty of this institute.
So session 4, we got into moving out of hardcore assignments and assessments. We had the notions of handling classroom discussions, conversations, and how to be present in general. Again, this was a sharing session where everybody just gave examples of effective discussions they've used, techniques for fostering conversation in the classroom. We did delve into rubrics a little bit to grade discussion. Some people had and some people hadn't used the rubric tool in Blackboard, but we went back, we were really focused on creating a rubric on paper and then moving it into an actual Blackboard tool. We also discussed, like, as we focus on students a lot, is how can the instructor be more active? We really wanted active instructors, not just stages on the stage, not just people throwing up content and sitting back. Especially, we wanted to really foster engagement in an online, faculty engagement in an online setting. And then the deliver, went back.
Yeah, sorry, I hit the button too.
No problem. Then our deliver for that one was designing a method or a plan for being active, and which ways to facilitate your effective discussions and conversations. This was also the session where we decided on the official roles for the group. Originally, we didn't even have this idea, but several of the nursing instructors said they wanted to break out into formal roles. And you can see, lady in the pink, what was that? Was Dale? Dale Spielman. She became our project manager. She was not the subject matter expert, but she was a great organizer and keeping people on tasks.
We did find the nursing faculty are very good at taking the lead, and it worked out quite well.
Yeah, and we had some fun ones because we even had one guy was a advisor, and he became the pun master. He was good at naming the chapters to make them fun. Oh, we do have a question. How comfortable were the faculty members through all this?
I would say they were extremely comfortable. And I think there's a couple factors in that. I think that everyone tended to know, even if they didn't know each of us, they knew us. So at least we were sort of the central, and Adam as well, who participated as well. Also, I think that classroom really helped. And when we talk about the virtual one, things sort of changed. I think in general, I think we were sort of the central comfort because of that, because we were sort of that known entity on that. And honestly, faculty were extremely comfortable. They were willing to say and do anything.
I think they also gravitated to the roles they wanted. The quieter people got really into content design. They're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Then they broke off and did something. The more organized people started really taking up the official roles. What do you call it? And yeah, people just kind of I mean, it's a little awkward in the first session. People are just getting to know each other. But by the end, it's loud. It's very loud.
And as you can see on the screen there, we did just break up roles. And some of them are silly. Rose, who was one of the nursing faculty, she decided she wanted to be the cheerleader of the group to get everyone going. Bill, who was the advisor, he was the pun master. So this was an archaeology course. So we would have modules called like, can you dig it? And what else did you do, Greg? There was some other silly ones.
Yeah, we even got in person outside the Institute, because you see the subject matter experts were our two people in the discipline, John and Nina, but they also had to bring in the face-to-face some content for the face-to-face teacher, Sharon. So you see Star, that she's not actually there, but they were meeting offline with her or outside the Institute to get the material. They were like, well, we know she already has good material. We're just going to bring that in. So,
and it was really important for Dale, who was our leader, to set that timeline and make sure she knew the roles, because she was going to ask people to do their task after the 4-day workshop. So these are the lessons we learned from this in-person EDI. We took many pictures. Yes, we could have probably used the fancy technology and captured it digitally. Honestly, it was more fun just taking some cell phone photos. My phone was, I think I had 200 photos on my phone. And you know what? I look back sometimes at those photos like, that was a really good time. Those are the kind of things that worked really well for us. We took many notes. We had Greg write those up on the screen and take notes on every single thing we said. Luckily, try to have someone with good handwriting.
And you could see the one went from black to purple because I ran the black marker out.
Yeah, so make sure you get someone in your group. It doesn't have to be the instructional designer, but get someone in your group who can write, because that's super important. We did find after the fact, the subject matter expert, which was mainly John Donahue, which is our sociology and anthropology instructor, we did find out that he ended up being very overwhelmed by task. And when we talk about our virtual one that we did this year, we broke the subject matter expert up in that role into multiple people, because poor John, who was the main subject expert on this, after the Institute, he had more work than anyone else. So we realized we needed to break that up a little bit more. We also realized that yes, it's really great doing work in 4 days. People work really hard in 4 days. We get lots of done in 4 days. And then people promise, including us, to do lots of things over the summer. And guess what happens? Soon as June 5th rolls around, everyone's like, party time. And we were just as bad as anyone else. Faculty and staff are just very busy in general, not just talking about summer. So timelines aren't as, can't be as tight as you'd like. You have to be a little more fluid on that. We also realized, and Greg and I were very careful on this, and this is something I think we've learned more over the years. I think early in our careers, Greg and I started the same time in 1999. Probably for the first 10 years of our career, we would have never thought about doing this. But now we realize we take notes. We take lots of notes. We make sure we change and tweak on what's worked and what didn't. So when you're running a session like this, take notes, change it after the fact. And most importantly, and I think it sort of goes back to our chat question, have fun. I think maybe another reason why faculty were really engaged on this is because it was just fun. It was a group of people getting together for 4 days, having the most fun you can have at work.
So we do have a question, and one more question. Were the participant volunteers? Was there some kind of sense of, we asked for volunteers, and actually asked some people directly, but the first few ones, there was not an incentive. It was just more of a just general PD and kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, bragging rights that this was kind of the ultimate level of instructional design training you could get at the time in our institution.
Also, what happened is at the same time we were running the first EDI, the college was experimenting with professional learning communities. And so the EDI group became one of the PLCs. That whole thing sort of died off after the fact. It did work out really well. In fact, actually, lots of the faculty appreciated it because they didn't have to get stuck in a different community that they didn't really care about. So it was good timing on that. Since then, it's just because people have already heard that the first one went really well and they want to do it. But like I said, it did tie into the professional learning community attempt at our college.
Okay, so now we get into the current status of this first cohort we had. Because we found out, like as Rick was going on, yeah, you do have to keep these timelines for deliverables very flexible. We actually probably will have the work of one cohort continuing while another one starts. So we'll be having to keep tabs on one while we're training the next. But that's fine. We want good development, good quality content, good quality course, rather than forcing people to be done at a certain time. But for the first cohort, the course is 100% done. Is not taught by poor John, our subject matter expert, taught by an adjunct who was not employed by the college at the time of its design. And that adjunct still works with Rick and the faculty member, and John, who was a member of the cohort. This course was submitted to ITC eCourse Award. While it wasn't quite done, but with the roadmap very visible. It was not ready enough for award at a time, but it was noted as an accomplishment. They did give us kudos on it, but said, please apply again later. But yeah, so the first cohort is finished. It was successful. It's a very well-designed course.
So a couple other things that came out of that first EDI. First of all, as you saw on this slide there, Greg and I took lots of notes. We made some changes. That's just that should happen no matter what. We also decided that this worked. Our pilot group worked. Our first group really worked. And we knew that this should keep happening. A couple things that I didn't add in the slide, but Greg and I both decided that this should happen not on a schedule. Maybe try it every year, but we'll see how it goes. Part of it is because we do want a new group of faculty each time. And we don't want to just assume that next year we have another group of faculty who are going to be perfect for this. It's got to be a little bit fluid because you need a group of faculty who are both experienced enough and maybe not experienced enough. And I don't think you can just go, every June we're going to do this. maybe try it, but let's see what people are out there. We might find, what, we don't really have a good pool in June of 2024. Let's wait till January of 2025. Let's not just force it each year just to force it. Now, we also came out with a mini EDI, what's called like a retreat version that different college divisions could do. It was literally maybe like a 3-hour version of the same thing, lots less deliverables, obviously not creating whole courses. We created it, we offered it to college divisions on a as requested basis. It just really hasn't taken off. I think lots of different reasons there. I think faculty are busy, divisions already have lots of things. But it is an option that we can do. So here's some things going into 2020 and stuff like that. First of all, the next year we were going to do it in 2019. We had this major PD event happen the same time. We had EDI planned. We had a group of faculty that we had sort of looked at, and we were like, let's get them in it. Well, this other event sort of took away lots of our people. So as I said before, we don't want to force it. We don't want to just go, okay, let's get another group of people, and maybe those don't fit what needs to be in this group. So we ended up just canceling it, and we pushed it to 2020. In fact, there was 2020.
Yep.
Things changed. So what happened was
we pivoted and turned it into the Virtual eLearning Design Institute, or VEDI. Too many people liked the acronym, and we were saying VEDI, VEDI this, VEDI that. So we were able to get ourselves together and get a new cohort in January 2021, and we hosted it completely on Microsoft Teams. We had to make the face-to-face sessions, like the ones where the synchronous sessions had to be scaled back to 2 hours a day with work assigned to do on their own asynchronously. So they got the same amount of content covered and work done, but the parts, just to keep the Zoom fatigue down, we made the synchronous parts shorter, just 2 hours. We weren't sure if this format was going to work. We're like, we needed those pinwheel rooms, we needed people with whiteboards, but we were really supply what we could kludge together with Microsoft Office tools and Blackboard, and we were really surprised, and this was extremely successful. I mean, we had great discussions at the same level, same quality, if not more. I think some of the quieter people were more emboldened by having at least that layer of virtualness between them, we're not being in a room, feeling everybody's energy, and they were more apt to speak out. So I think it was a little more, felt a little more orderly, but no, it really exceeded our expectations.
And I would actually say that before we went into the session, I would even say 2 minutes before we started the first session, I was like, I don't know. I have no idea if this is going to work. At the end, just like those face-to-face sessions, I was totally excited. I was pumped up. It felt great. In fact, the only thing is that we had is that, we still took lots of notes, but it was lots of Greg taking notes, and we probably should have done more digitally and things like this. The one problem we did is we just honestly didn't document. We probably should have documented more of the screen cap images of all of us and those kind of things. Honestly, I think that we were just in shock that things were working so well. I think that what Greg said is that people were so comfortable. Some of the more introverted people, they became more comfortable under Teams. We assume that everyone in Teams and Zoom hates it. There's certain people, Greg, my coworker right here, is a perfect example. Greg likes sitting in his home right there. He gets so much stuff done. He admits it, that this is his comfort zone. We found this group of faculty that honestly were better on Teams. And if we had that same group of people in the pinwheel room, I don't know, maybe they'd be successful. I think this was actually more successful in teams. We just probably didn't document it visually as well, just because I
They
think
used one more, not like facilitator like we were, but we needed like a dedicated chat person and someone to document screen capture. Almost needed a like a co-presenter at that level. Just can you get in there while we do and do our thing and make sure anything major that's on screen gets captured and documented.
And I think that would be if we do the VEDI version again, which we will probably potentially do. I think that when next time we do an EDI, we might still stick with the VEDI one because we get some different people, but I think we need a third person to sort of be just a chat and documenter and stuff like that. Super.
Okay, so just good kind of go into the details and data on this VEDI 2021. Again, it was another really strong mix of faculty, and this time we invited, again, we got flack for this, but we invited student services staff, we invited advisors, disability support people, enrollment people. Just again, we wanted, I think, back in our mind, this is an open house for e-learning. See what we do, see how the horribleness is created. And I think they really got a lot out. They kind of almost, there were some sessions where they dominated the discussion, or faculty really wanted to hear what their experiences were. And maybe because of that, it was just the student service and engagement and really piqued faculty interest, and they decided to not do a course, but to focus, well, it might become a course. They focus on creating student support modules. So if something like the pandemic happens again, there is something in place for to guide students through online learning. So after the session ended, they've been working with various other members, again, getting that outside knowledge, not reinventing the wheel, outside members of the general college community. And they're investigating whether it could be a credit course, like a first year experience and an online experience course, or broken down into chunks of reusable content that could be posted on a student support area or whatever, because we do have a lot of duplication of effort in this student support. So many, it overlaps in the Venn diagram in so many ways. Can we create a content that's reusable by all the people who support students? And this cohort is still meeting about once every 3 weeks. We have two very good project managers in it.
Yeah, they're not quite done because this is a big thing, and it is something they're going to be working with lots of various people to work on. I also don't want to say that just because we added a few students of support staff into this, that's the reason it became a student support module. I think that would have came about anyway. And remember, even in our first EDI, we had 2 advisors in that as well. I think just everyone, including, especially because of the pandemic, faculty really navigated towards or went towards this student support idea. So like I said, I don't think it's just because we added a few more students of support people on that. That's the reason it went that way.
No, deep down, this is still faculty driven. We just want to bring in people who can complement and support faculty. Like we brought in library staff, we brought in student support. We're giving them all the tools they may not know are out there. And then when they started hearing input from the library and student services staff, it was like the faculty ears pricked up, and it was like, no, we really see a need and really want to do this. So we want to change a pace for this session and design something like this. They saw a need, and that's what they wanted to do.
And so our project managers for this, for example, is a librarian and an English professor. So even though we're doing a student support module, we have this great group of subject matter experts in this, from disability support and student services. The project manager is an English professor and a librarian, and it works really well. It doesn't always have to be the nursing faculty like we saw before. You just need someone who's willing to take the lead, and we have 2 very good managers on this who are doing that. So here's a little piece of advice to leave you with if you think to do something like this. First of all, both of us have been very adamant that EDI or VEDI, whatever name you want to use it, is something that is not, excuse me, something that all faculty will eventually go through or should be invited to. You have to stand up a little bit and go, no, we don't, I don't want to quite say we don't want certain people. That's, you don't do that. But we need people who are going to see the vision of what we're doing and can work together like that.
Yeah, it's a bringing good to great is one of our underlying ideals in this. Like we see, it could be like, because we had one person who was first year adjunct, but because of what he went through the basic training, we're like, he's got a spark. There's a spark in him. We want to take a risk. Let's try him.
I think that's a perfect example. This instructor that Greg mentioned, I didn't know the person, but Greg was like, this guy will fit. So we know, even though he doesn't have the huge amount of experience, he needs to be part of that. One of the persons I insisted being in this EDI and I pushed for, I begged for, was our disability support technologist, Nadine, who's just wonderful. And we knew she would just fit this. You don't want to exclude people, but you, at the same time, you've got to be willing to fight for like who you think should be in this. It is open for everyone. You do have to sort of open it, but at the same time, it's got to be sort of open, but by invitation at the same time. Some of the people, and especially the first EDI, our first official one, we had to sort of beg and suggest and say, hey, you really should do this. Hey, remember when I asked you to do this? Can you sign up? Hey, remember that third time I've been telling you to do this? Please sign up. You're going to fit this group. It is open to everyone, but you have to get the right group of people.
And this online one, we experimented with a selection committee because we did have a really huge response. So we got the head of our director for our Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning. We had our e-learning coordinator. We had Rick and I. We had several people from previous cohorts who went through and up or down on various applications we got, because we said we have this amount of people, we have this amount of space, who are we picking?
And it also, like I mentioned before, it shouldn't necessarily be on a specific schedule. And I say that at the same time, Greg and I would like to see it go once, maybe even twice per year. But sometimes that's not going to happen. You know, what if you've done it 3 times in a row over 18 months? At a certain point, you're like, you know, we've got all the people we want. This is an advanced group of individuals. They're identified as people that could be good participants. If next year you go, you know what, this is just not going to work. Also, we had to be very fluid with, once again, we had some schedule issues. We wanted to do it again in June, only 6 months since we did it last time. It just didn't work. We're going to push that to, I think, what, January now, Greg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got too many schedule demands on us during that June time. And we're like, we can't, it's going to be mediocre it's going to be rushed and mediocre. And this aims for excellence. And really we can't get that. We have to pass until we can.
And you, like I said, you just may have to, especially this was Greg and I's vision of just get people together. Something became out of it. We realized we have to sort of gently fight and push to make sure it's not the college's vision. This sounds harsh, but it's something that we want to make it good. So we want to work with administration to make it great and good, but it still needs to be our vision on this. So you have to stand by your guts on this, and it's hard to do. You're going to have to give in on certain things, but other times, things like the schedule or invitation kind of things, Greg and I are really pretty adamant that this needs to be a certain way. But of course, we have we're not going to just stand and go, no, this can't happen, those kind of things. We want it to work. And we're going to stand by our beliefs, but we have to sort of work with administration, things like that. You got anything to add more on that?
No, yeah, we did do a lot of trench fighting on some things. There is a lot of push to water it down at times, like, oh, you need to put so-and-so in there because they really need help. Well, our training is for help. This is for producing, getting excellent people together and producing an excellent project. This is envisioning of it, it always was, it predated our general training, but this is the pinnacle of e-learning's training. This is recognizing somebody who are good and bringing them to the level of excellence. And we both feel very strongly about that. So we do get into some scuffles over it. I hope sometimes nicely, sometimes not. Most of the time, very nicely, we're able to just advocate for it. Says, listen, we really want to run this the right way with the right people. And if it's rushed or we didn't get enough people, we're not just going to run it with 4 people. Or we had a lot of applicants, but we don't see, these aren't innovators. Or yeah, it's just, we have to maintain, it's good to have a set of goals, set of core principles, and stick to them as much as you can.
And actually, I'd like to say that our administrator has been great at this, has been a very big supporter, but we just, we just need to work together with them and make this what it is. And honestly, their vision, our vision, there's a way for all of it to work. It's just, you've got to sort of stand by your viewpoint, your vision, and at the same time, work within what you have.
So we do have a question from the chat. When you say no to set schedule, will the method, virtual or F2F, influence that? In other words, will you continue to offer both versions when wanted or needed?
That is a really good question that I'm not sure we have an answer for. Just because I would have said 2 months ago that it was always going to be virtual, because who knows what's going to ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 months later, I don't know. So I don't know if the schedule seems to be at this point more out of our hands because of other things that just keep getting scheduled, and trying to find 4, 5, 3 days, whatever you decide to do, is pretty tough as it is. I don't know if the format at this point is the reason for that.
Yeah, we've kicked this idea around. We haven't settled on anything, but I think we were saying if we were going to do it, if we had the proper amount of people, we had the time, the June one would be face-to-face in ideal circumstances. And then the winter one, with all it brings, would continue to be virtual. Because I don't think now that I've done virtual, I think there's upsides to both and downsides to both, but I don't want to give up one or the other. I mean, the virtual one was really great, but the face-to-face ones are good too. So I think it's, if we have the sense of go, no go, and it's a go for a June, do face-to-face, or be flexible, say, hey, does everybody want to meet? We could do a hybrid approach too. We're leaving this fluid. I mean, the virtual worked really good. The face-to-face worked really good. I think it's like what we get together. I think, again, the summer would lean better to face-to-face. The winter would lean better to the virtual, but I don't think we're set to it.
So our current schedule is we were going to do a June one on Teams, and that looks like it's going to be bumped up to January, probably on Teams, based on sort of like that schedule Greg was talking about. Past that, we have not even decided at this point.
Another question says, this idea of a virtual think tank or institute can be done at other colleges or universities with help from, I think they mean us, if we would consult. Is that what's being asked?
I'm not really even sure. I don't see it because I just...
Yes, kind of. Like, would we be willing to share notes or whatever?
Sure. Just contact Greg. I'm rsmith at harford.edu. Greg is Priebe, G-P-R-I-E-B-E. Look, I know how to spell your name. At harford.edu. Reach out to us. We can always chat with you on this. The great thing about this is we started it not knowing what was going to happen. We just wanted to get some people together, and it became something. That does not mean this is the end on how it's going to be. We may change the topics. We may change some of the flow, but I think we've got a general idea how we want to do it, but you're going to have your own ideals on things like this.
I think that's a very important point. You don't have to do it the way you take our ideas, please, learn from our mistakes, but you don't have to do this exactly the way we do it. I think the biggest thing we got a bunch of great people from all over the campus together in a room to have high level discussions. And like, oh, I think, all right, the core idea is like, it's either a master class or a master discussion of very talented people all in a room who wouldn't normally work together, and just see what comes out of it.
I remember when we mentioned we had nursing faculty on all ours. We had nursing faculty on this last VETI session as well. The nursing faculty at our college are often very busy. They do not see other faculty. There's faculty in that nursing department who has worked here for 15, 20 years. They have no idea who the anthropology instructor is. Now I've seen them chat out on the campus. Well, obviously pre-last year, but I've seen them talk. You know what? I'm pretty sure they would have never even known who each other was before that. So at the very least, it's a good community building aspect. Even if you do not make a deliverable, if you just do what we did with our pilot, get some people together who don't know each other and just talk about issues.
Yeah, this was a side effect or good outcome of the virtual session. We've been using Microsoft Teams, and what we did is we made a general team for all the past people who have gone through EDI or VEDI, and then made specific chat threads for the specific cohorts. So it hasn't happened yet, but potentially we could have people from all the different graduates of this institute putting their 2 cents in when, like, if a general question is put out there. We want to keep these cohorts in contact with all these people who have gone through.
And we have seen a little bit of communication on that. I think at this point, people have a little bit of a Teams, they're tired of Teams.
Aversion. Yeah, Teams aversion.
Yeah.
But somehow keep like a community on both online and virtual, where people can still, even when it's done, throw ideas out there. Or maybe when you have we're planning on awarding certificates when this next course is completed, because we gave them electronic badges in Blackboard with it once they did the work through the live running sessions. But when they deliver their final project, we're going to give everybody certificates, and we'll have probably some little party and a presentation. But we want to invite everybody who's been there before so they can network. So just cheer each other on, network.
And the other thing I want to talk about is that when we were choosing each of our sessions, we choose which courses we want to, the group chooses which courses they want to work on as their deliverable. I have to say, I thought this was going to be a contentious issue each time. People are always going to want to, like, no, work on my course. No, work on my course. No, honestly, people really want to get courses that are needed out to faculty. And it's really great. So it looks like Rob said we have a couple minutes left. Maybe one last question or things like that, or if anything else.
Yeah, chat's clear at the moment if you have a question.
I think, Rob, if you want to wrap it up.
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen. I wasn't trying to cut you off just yet, but I appreciate the sensitivity to time. And let me thank both of you for your contributions. I think this eLearning Institute sounds pretty cool, and I like VETI. That's a pretty awesome acronym too. So thank you very much for your contributions to the greater field, as well as to this presentation. Let me thank everyone again for joining us today. And as a reminder, we will be sharing the recording and the slides with you after this, probably in the next couple of days. So again, on behalf of Maryland Online, thank you all very much for your time today, and I wish everyone a wonderful week. Thank you.